All right, I think it is time to take the flags down. Now, we've got a storm coming in this weekend. It is after Labor Day. I did tell the utility company that we were going to take flags down after Labor Day. So before they lock me up and take me to jail, I think that's what we're going to go do right now. Frogger is the ladder man today. He's the one going up on the ladder taking the flags down. I think I need some oil on my door. As you can see, this is a real safe operation we have going on here. Will you need me to sign a certificate after today for your ladder certification for the fire department?
No, I'm good.
Do you already have that certification?
No, I haven't even gotten fingerprints to join yet.
Oh. I never posted my video from July concerning these flags. But on the, I think it was July 6th or July 7th, soon after July 4th, SMECO, our local electric cooperative, stopped by the store and they said, hey, you need to take the flags down. We don't want them on our poles any longer. And I said, oh, wait a minute. We got permission from someone at SMECO to put these flags on the pole. Well, we've changed our mind. We've had some issues in another town, so we're making everybody take flags down off of our utility poles. I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. He said, look, we were nice enough to wait until after the 4th of July to come inform you of it. I said, no, I want a meeting with SMECO. And I made some phone calls. I called some board members of SMECO. I called some county commissioners, and I raised hell. I said, we live in a military county. We have the Pax River Naval Air Station, just 15, 20 minutes from here. I said, this is going to reflect bad on SMECO if this word gets out. I said, we need to set up a meeting here with SMECO and come up with some rules and regulations on these flags. We can make this work for us. Well, phone calls go back and forth. I made a number of phone calls. Some other citizens made some phone calls as well. Looks like that bracket is about to come out of there. And a couple of weeks went by. We left the flags up, of course. SMECO had given me an ultimatum and said, look, if the flags are not down by this date, I think it was a weekend, we're going to take the flags down the following week. I said, well, do what you got to do. So I informed a number of customers at the hardware store what SMECO was telling us. And I said, look, if you all see SMECO's truck in the area taking flags down, I said, please get some video. I said, we need to expose them. I said, if I post video of SMECO trucks taking American flags down off of their poles, it's not going to reflect well on them. And I said, so we need the video. So everybody was watching out. They never did take the flags down. Well, here it is, September, what is today? September 21st. We're just now taking the flags down. They have never contacted me. We've never got our meeting set up about getting some rules and regulations in place to allow this to continue to happen. Now, understand, SMECO is a co-op. It is a member-owned co-op. So that means we, the members, own SMECO, the utility company. So we should have a say-so in what happens with our utility.
I'm not used to it.
It's time to take them down.
I'm not used to it, man.
Hopefully next year.
Alright,
Yep, you too. So I saw a SMECO board member. He was down at my store 2 weeks ago making a delivery for me. And I talked to him, and he said, wow, you really raised a stink. He said, so I finally told the other board members to just leave it alone, that he said he would take them down by or after Labor Day. He said, but I hope you don't put them up next year. I said, well, I still want that meeting with SMECO, because there's a way that this can happen, and it can happen peacefully. If we have to get permission from all the property owners who these poles are on, because that was one of the things SMECO said, is you're trespassing. Another issue was safety issue, you know, climbing these poles. Well, we can make this work. If it's a safety issue, then we'll get the flags and give them to SMECO and let SMECO put them up, since they already have permission, apparently, to be on the property, because it's their poles. We are willing to get permission ourselves from each property owner to put these flags up. Another option is we plant our own poles next to the utility poles and put the flags on those poles. But there's a way to make this work, so we're going to continue fighting this and trying to talk to SMECO to come up with a plan in order for us to put these flags up again next year. So they're not all SMECO poles. Some of them are just Verizon poles, like the one, this pole here is just a Verizon pole. The poles on that side of the road are SMECO poles. So it's about, I think we have 40 flags total that we put up, and 20 of them are strictly SMECO poles, or SMECO / Verizon, but I think SMECO owns those poles, and then 20 of the poles are Verizon poles. Verizon has no problem with them. They did not call us and say, hey, you have to take the flags down. It was just SMECO that did this. So I have waited until now to mention this, because sometimes you just need to leave a sleeping dog alone. But I was prepared to make this go viral back in July when they first told me to take these flags down. But since they have allowed us to keep them up until now, I kept my mouth shut, which is not like me. So I encourage you all, if you are members of SMECO, I would encourage you to call them and voice your support over these flags. If you oppose them, then don't call them, don't say anything about that. But if you support what we're doing here, then call SMECO and put a bug in their ear. Let them know, hey, we need to allow this again next year. One thing we did differently this year, so we kept all of the poles and solar lights from last year. We put all new batteries in the solar lights, but we did have to replace the flags. And we used nylon flags this year instead of the cotton flags, and they held up much nicer. They did not fade. Now this is a cotton flag that was I think left over from last year, was it? No, I didn't have enough nylon, so I had to use a cotton. So this is a cotton flag, and you'll be able to see it's faded a little bit more, but all of the rest are nylon flags here, and they just seem to hold up a whole lot better. Do you ever have those days that you just feel like you've been defeated? Yeah, I'm having one of those days, and I'm just feeling like, you know, why am I doing what I'm doing? You know, what I thought was a good idea last year when we put the flags up on the utility poles in our town, we got a lot of feedback over that, a lot of compliments. I thought I went through all the right channels and getting the approvals to put this up, and it all came together, and very few issues last year. This year, same thing, do the same thing, and now the utility company is calling and saying, no, you can't do that. And so I'm questioning, and I've always been one to question authority. I guess if I just did like most people and went through life as a drone and did as my masters told me, I wouldn't have these issues. But that's not what makes America great. What makes us great is that we have these freedoms to do what we think is right, to do what we believe in. And so I've always questioned authority from the time I was probably in the 7th or 8th grade, when I went to a Catholic school and questioned the nuns, questioned the pastor, the principal. Got to high school, it was a public high school, I kind of did the same thing, but I don't know, I look at myself as somewhat as a leader, maybe not a good leader. I am someone that likes to be in charge. I'm someone that takes charge. You know, if I go to a meeting, I'm not afraid to stand up and speak. You know, there are so many people that sit in a meeting and never stand up and speak their mind, and you don't know what they're thinking until after the meeting, where you get out in the hallway and you have some small group talks, and then they tell you how they really feel, and it's like, well, why didn't you get up in front of the public here and say this? Oh, I don't want to make waves, I don't want to cause trouble. Then why even go to the meeting? So I'm one of those that I stand up and I speak what's on my mind. Yeah, I know I don't always go about it the most diplomatic way. I'm not really a diplomat. I know how it should be, and I know how it should get done, and this is how I'm going to do it. I don't want to put up with red tape and the BS that goes along with some of these projects or things that need to get done. And so that's why I get in these predicaments, is because I question authority, and if more people questioned authority, we would have a better country, in my opinion. But no, most people are happy just going along with their head down. Yes, master, whatever you say, master. And I'm not that person. I'm not going to do that. So we'll see how this flag situation goes. You know, it was the same thing during COVID, and I was looking at the news and reading news articles that were not allowed to be published on the mainstream media or on social media sites, and I just kept shaking my head saying something is not right here. Why are we going through these motions, and why are we being forced to do these things that are against our Constitution? None of it was making sense, and that's why I pushed back on my local health department doctor and said, no, this is not right. And of course now we're seeing that it was not right, and people are starting to admit that. I'm still waiting for my apology from the local health department, Dr. Brewster. I'll never get that apology. It was all BS, and I knew it, and I stood up against it, and more of us should have stood up against it. And if more of us had stood up against that tyranny, it wouldn't have lasted nearly as long as it did. So I'm just one that I'm not going along with the program all the time. If I see an issue, if I see something that's not right, I'm going to question it. And I'm going to fight to the end if I believe in it. And the more I'm thinking about the flags on the poles here and them telling us, no, we can't do this, I'm thinking, wait a minute. This is a co-op utility company. Co-op meaning we, the people, own the company. So we have a say-so in this. And yes, we do elect board members for the co-op every year. And so I did call one of the board members that I know, and I've spoken to him. So he's making some phone calls to help out here and figure out what is going on. From what I can tell, there was a problem in another county within this co-op with things on telephone poles. I don't know if it was flags or campaign signs. It sounds like that was a problem, and so now they're shutting it all down. And no, my opinion is, let's work through this. Let's come up with a plan that says, okay, if this town wants to do this, let's figure out how we do this. Whether it's the co-op that comes out and puts up the flags and takes them down, whether it is a contractor that we have, whether someone in the town like myself who wants to do this can become a temporary agent of the co-op. There's ways to do this properly if they have an issue here. I think one of the initial feedbacks I'm getting right now from someone else I've talked to is maybe if we go to each property owner where the utility pole sits and we get their written permission to put these flags up, maybe we go about it that way, because that was one of the concerns the utility company had, was they own the utility poles, but they do not own the rights to allow people to go on other people's property to do anything with the utility poles. There's ways to work around this. You just don't say, no, because of one bad apple, you shut it down and say no more. No, you work around the bad apple, and you cut that bad apple off the tree and get rid of it, and continue to nurture the tree and trim it up and prune it properly and say, yep, we're gonna keep the tree. You don't cut the whole darn tree down and get rid of it because of the one bad apple. So as I said, there are just some days I feel defeated, and it's like, why am I doing this? But it's for the greater good. The community loves the flags. We get a lot of compliments about it. Apparently the utility company has gotten compliments about the flags as well. We maintain them if they're falling down. If they're ratty looking, we're putting them back up. We're replacing them. They're only up from Memorial Day to Labor Day. You know, serenity now, serenity now. But I've still got some fight left in me, so I'll continue to fight a little bit longer. We'll see.